It is trade deadline day. It's already pretty exciting to all our viewers. Joining
10
us a little
trades
earlier.
already,
10 already?
including yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Well, including 2 trades by the Raptors. So this is the thing. So we got 3 hours. We're going to adapt as we go. We got producer Amit Mon ready on the dials if he ever needs to jump in and update us with news so that we're not just staring at Woj and Shams' Twitter accounts all day. But already 2 trades that have already been made. Let's start with the one that was most recent. I couldn't believe that the Raptors couldn't have just waited probably 30 more minutes for this trade because it literally would have happened during our interview with Dennis Schroder. But yeah, Raptor show, frequent contributor Dennis Schroder has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets alongside of Thad Young for Spencer Dinwiddie. Those are all the details we have right now. But it just, for now, it seems like a straight, trade with no picks involved as of the moment. But Blake, your first reaction to why the Raptors would make a deal like this?
Because they wanted to harm the show today. They didn't want Dennis on the air with us at 1:30 as he was scheduled. We're still going to see if Dennis will come on, maybe say goodbye, maybe, who knows, maybe air some grievances on the way out the door. But no, this one is a little bit surprising. So nobody has reported yet that there are picks involved in any way here. We had heard from Michael Grange that if Dennis were to be dealt, it would be seconds at most. The way this looks on the surface, with just Spencer Dinwiddie coming back for Dennis Schroder and Thad Young. A note that it was originally reported that Dennis Smith Jr. was also coming back to Toronto. That is not the case. Woj corrected his initial tweet there. So it's just Dinwiddie coming back. What this would do, other than creating a roster spot, is it would give the Raptors basically a mulligan on the $13 million they'd owe to Dennis Schroder next year. Now, you could certainly look at this and think, well, getting out of Dennis's $13 million for next year for free is not really, like, the value there isn't particularly special. You just signed him to this 2-year, $25 million deal this offseason. But that's basically it. Like, I don't think you're really interested in Spencer Dinwiddie for the long term. Maybe he plays backup point guard the rest of the season the way Dennis Schroder had been. But to me, unless there are more details to come, this is just a straight get out of Dennis's 2024, 2025, $13 million deal. Do you see more to it than that?
I don't. Okay. Yes, I do agree with that. I think it's also kind of interesting that they chose specifically to get out of it, right? Because not just for the money aspect. I mean, the Raptors have plenty of financial flexibility. It's not that. The fact that they wanted to move off of him, I think, suggests to me that they want to go in a different direction, maybe leadership-wise. They took Thad Young out of the deal as well. I suppose they replaced that with Kelly Olynyk, who is the other trade that we will get to. But yeah, I do think that this does speak in a sense to the Raptors wanting to get off of Dennis. And of course, we've talked about the leadership structure. We even saw it last night. This is something we were going to ask Dennis about with Darko giving him the chain. Darko has definitely relied on Dennis quite a bit. And, I do think that this is almost like purposely moving away from that specific dynamic. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think the big get here is necessarily Spencer Dinwiddie, although, Spencer can play. There's no doubt. I mean, he's been in the league a long time. He's a good vet. Interesting storyteller as well. Maybe we'll get him on the show sometime as well. But
there is a little bit of weirdness around Spencer Dinwiddie's exit with Brooklyn here, where Jake Fisher had to clarify earlier today. Dinwiddie did not ask for a trade, but both sides are pretty happy this happened. And there's been Dinwiddie. I've talked to Dinwiddie over the years for stories. I actually, back in the Alfonso McKinney days, he really helped me out with an Alfonso McKinney story because they had played together on the Windy City Bulls. So I'm all about a guy with G League roots.
Oh my God!
Less so with the the contract and Bitcoin of it all, but
how's Spencer Dinwiddie coin going to fit under the cap?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay.
This does remind me though of December 1995 WCW Nitro. Obviously, as you remember, Will. So Dennis is the last winner of the chain, right? In 1995, Alundra Blaze, who was the WWE Women's Champion, showed up on WCW the next night and dumped the Women's Championship in the trash.
Wow.
Dennis showing up for the next Nets game with the Raptors chain and just dump it in the trash. I took it home with me. I don't know. I don't care that much about this particular trade. It affects our show. It affects the cap sheet for next year. But really, this is swapping out a 2-year contract for a 1-year contract for a backup point guard that isn't a part of your long-term plans. The other thing, I guess, is given Dinwiddie's age and that he's expiring, maybe there's a slightly higher potential that he would get bought out rather than just playing out the year. You still do need a backup point guard. But to me, this also signals that, hey, things like Dennis Schroder closing last night's game, things like you're always playing with one, maybe even 2 point guards on the floor. We might be back to the point guard for this team when Emmanuel Quickley is not on the floor, is more of a Scotty Barnes plus wings kind of look. Like, hey, RJ, you're going to handle a little bit. Kyra Lewis went out in the Kelly Olynyk trade, so there's not a third string point guard on the roster either anymore, unless you consider Javon Freeman Liberty that. So there's going to be a little bit more, point guard via wing. And yes, Ahmed, I know that PJ Washington has been dealt for Grant Williams and Seth Curry and a first. But
we'll grab that in this. Yeah. We'll grab that in a second. We're talking about the Raptors trades for the moment. I think for sure. I mean, you definitely saw that Darko and Dennis. Darko turned to Dennis for any sort of opportunity that he needed. Any sort of opportunity where it's like, we need a couple hustle plays here, or we need to stop a run here, or we need to close a game, or we need to key a stop. Like, that was his guy. So I do think that, you are obviously purposely breaking that relationship. Like, what's going on? You got to look a surprise.
Yeah, this is a fun aside. This is not a trade-related thing. It's hilarious that the NBA does this stuff 2 hours out from trade deadline. But Scotty Barnes teaming with Tyrese Maxey and Trae Young as the other team in that skills competition at All-Star Weekend.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so we'll get a little bit more Scotty at All-Star Weekend, and a little bit more Scotty as the true point guard with the Raptors moving forward.
I think, well...
Sorry, I got an NBA alert on trade deadline day. I saw Scotty Barnes' name. I thought it was worth opening up. It was not.
Yeah. No, it'd be good because we'll get more Scotty, Tyrese Maxey interactions, which happened remember there was the infamous moment where him and Maxey, had to hug it out after Scotty missed a whole bunch of bunnies. No, but I mean, getting back to the trade, I think that was a purposeful decision to move away from that dynamic. And then we'll see. I think with Darko, I'm sure he'll have to find other ways to sort of leverage his roster. We'll see if Spencer. Do you think Spencer sticks around? Like, is it like he stays the rest of this year? Do you think we buy him out in any chance?
So yeah, I don't think he's here beyond this year. He's a 30-year-old kind of backup combo guard.
Okay.
We'll see. Like he's also one of those guys like Kyle that can't go to every team as a bio candidate because he makes $20 million.
Okay.
He would have a market, but I don't know if they're going to. I don't know. Like, maybe
you think they'll stick it out. I mean, they don't have a backup point guard right now.
Yeah, you're gonna need 18 players. You already have one roster spot opened up from this.
Yeah.
I mentioned last night with respect to the two ways. We're now past the point in the season where none of the two way guys can even max out their days. So like you have those guys available to you all season anyway. Maybe if there's like a G League guy or a subsequent trade where they really want to use that roster spot. But right now, I think it's probably likelier that he just rides the season out as kind of a backup combo guard.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind. But yeah, I mean, this one was, would you say was a surprise? Was this a surprise to you? Because we didn't even get any future considerations. So again, like this is them wanting to get out of the contract and them wanting to get out of that relationship.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Dennis got traded. I'm surprised that he got traded in a move that is purely cap motivated.
Okay.
Because like even if you don't love the fit or the leadership dynamic or whatever the reason behind this is, like 13 million and look, Dennis had some ups and downs this year. He is a very good backup point guard. If he's your backup point guard, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, we saw that all season.
You don't want him to be your starter probably, but if he's your backup, you're pretty good. 13 million for that guy is like very reasonable value. So I don't like. You're not going out with 13 million this year and getting a point guard who, you're not getting a starting caliber point guard with 13 million on the market. So there's obviously a thing here. Like there's obviously some sort of dynamic that motivated them to do this because like with no assets getting back, like if the relationship wasn't in a bad spot or you didn't really have someone in mind that you want to hand those responsibilities to, why not just wait until the offseason when, who knows, maybe that could be used in a trade. Like if a salary dump was available now, a salary dump's available on draft night or July 1st, right?
Yeah.
It's when way more teams have cap space too. So a little odd that there's no draft compensation here. Like even like future
That's why
second.
I think they wanted to break the relationship. Yeah. Like that's the main motivation behind this deal.
I think that's the only conclusion you can come to because like, cap flexibility next summer is great, but they already have a lot of it and you could find a home for Dennis Schroder next summer, no problem.
Yeah, you could. So we don't get any future pieces in that one. We do get future pieces in the other trade that was already made. again, Bobby Webster, Masai Ujiri, you guys could have just waited. We extended the show today. Maybe we should have gone live at 11 a.m. or something. But yeah, the other trade, Raptors trade, Kira Lewis, Otto Porter.
Kyra. I know he was only here for a minute, but it's Kyra Lewis.
We trade Kyra Lewis, who did wear the number 3 after OG left for one game, and now he is gone. Otto Porter, who hit 14 total threes as a Raptor, as a three-point specialist. And we traded the first-round pick. This is a key detail because that's the worst of the 2 first-round picks in this year's draft that came back from Indiana. So essentially right now it's OKC's first-round pick, which is right now the 29th pick. They traded those 3 pieces for Ochai Agbaji, who was the 14th pick 2 drafts ago, and Kelly Olynyk, who needs no introduction in Toronto. He comes back home. Okay, let's focus on Agbaji first and foremost. 6'6", shooting guard, small forward, largely a defensive prospect. Maybe has a little bit of catch and shoot in the corners. I guess you hope that he becomes a 3-and-D type of guy. Give me your scouting report right now on what we got back for Ochai Agbaji.
Yeah, so I mean, I liked him a fair amount as a prospect coming out of Kansas.
Okay.
Weirdly, I thought he showed more offensively at Kansas than he's been able to show in these 2 years with Utah. So right now, my focus with Agbaji is way more on the defensive side of the ball than offensively. I don't want to be negative about him because he's only in his second year. He's an older prospect. He's almost 24. But there is, you don't want to write a guy off after only a season and a half in the NBA. But right now, offensively, he can catch and shoot a corner 3. He's hit above 42% on corner 3s both of his seasons. So that's an encouraging number. He doesn't have above the break range at all. He is weirdly not he shows some good instincts for making cuts, but he's not very good at finishing them. Very one-hand dominant. And then when you look at, what his face-up game is, if he has any attack a closeout out of the corner or anything like that, he dribbles less than basically any wing player in basketball. Like, it's part of that's Utah's system where so much of their stuff is oriented on catch and shoot and quick decision without the dribble, unless you're Jordan Clarkson or Chris Dunn. Like, even Lauri Markkanen, doesn't self-create a lot. But we're talking about Agbaji doesn't self-create at all. And when you look at his comparables in terms of how often do you dribble and stuff like that, Sadiq Bey is the only comparable in there who's not purely either an interior center or a pure catch and shoot only guy. So there's not a lot of offensive juice there yet. However, being able to catch and shoot out of the corner is a very important NBA skill, and he's shown he can do that. He showed he could do that at Kansas as well. Secondly, he is on a short list of best transition players in the league, both directions. He is unbelievable as a transition defender and really fits what the Raptors do with RJ and Scotty offensively in transition. Now, that's only about 20% of the game, so you obviously need to see more round out, but transition both ways, he's really good. The most curious piece to me, and where this is going to determine, is he a top 8 rotation caliber guy in time, or is he just an okay bench guy, is right now he's very, very good defensively in transition. Similar to Quickly, he does a lot of stuff nicely off ball, good help instincts, good, scramble and recover instincts. But at the point of attack, he's not that great a defender yet. So the Raptors are going to look at him and say, 6'5", 6'6", 6'10" wingspan, 220. You've got the strength to play that role. I would think the Raptors are going to challenge him to be that guy for them, at least in the second unit, because, if he's a good team defender, a really good transition player, and his main offensive skills corner 3s, that's a bench player in the league. But if you're going to play your way into the top 8 in the rotation, you either have to develop more offensive skill, attacking closeouts, or even a little bit of your own individual shot creation, or you've got to be an absolutely lockdown point of attack guy. So that'll be the challenge for him from here.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, definitely you're getting him for his defense. Offensively, he's going to show more promise. I mean, this season, 19 of 76 shooting from above the break, which is 25%, right? So, but, catch and shoot overall, which largely for him is in the corners. Catch and shoot overall in his 2 seasons with in the league is 113 for 317, which is 36%. That's decent. That's doable.
And it's higher in the corners if you isolate it just for the corners.
Yeah. And, there's a little bit of shooting off movement and stuff like that. But also at the same time, I think a lot of that is just related to Utah's system offensively. But yeah, there has to be growth there offensively. I think defensively, that's the main reason you get him. If he had a path in the league, I suppose. I mean, 3-and-D gets thrown around a lot, but I really do feel like his future would be 3-and-D. He just needs to improve on his three-point consistency, both in the corners and from above the break, ideally. I guess I have 2 questions from this. So, number one, what is it going to take for him to eventually become a starter? Like, do you see there's a starter potential? And if that were the case, what are the things that needs to break for Ochai to get to that range?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an oversimplification. Like, he is worlds away from being this guy.
Yeah.
But it's the OG
Okay.
Anunoby model where your defense is so good, and even when the offensive package isn't there that much, you're just so reliable as a catch and shoot corner three guy. Now,
Okay.
OG is more than those things. Like, we're talking about one of the most versatile and one of the best defenders in the NBA, and we're talking about a guy who has hit, like 5-6 3-point attempts a game at a 38% clip for years now. Like, there is a huge gap for Agbaji to make up there, but that is the kind of model of how a player type who doesn't have a lot of self-creation to his game can stick as a starter. And it's got to be primarily the defensive end. And again, if you don't have the secondary offensive skills to create for yourself, you've got to be really, really good at that knockdown corner three, because like even in the modern NBA, like being a passable corner 3-point shooter is not all that valuable, because like defenses already know, like they're already spaced out for corner shooting. So the path to being a star, I don't want to rule it out, because again, he's only in his second year, but he is almost 24. He did play at a major program. This isn't a guy who doesn't have and look, I know people will point out the Masai connection. Masai knows his father and things like that. His father's Nigerian,
Masai knows
but
his
like
father,
he grew up in the U.S. high school and college system. Like, this isn't a guy who got a late start and things like that. He has had time to develop. So he's gonna need things to come along offensively. And I talked to some Utah people, by the way.
Okay.
And I talked to Seth Partnow about this very, very briefly. But one of the, I guess, red flags for Utah, when they kind of not soured on him, but just like cooled off a little bit, is they gave him the reins at Summer League this year. So lottery pick heading into your sophomore year with a year of NBA under your belt. And he was not very good at Summer League. It's just Summer League. You don't want to take too much from it, but they gave him a lot more of that self-creation responsibility and a bigger role and stuff like that. And he didn't do particularly well with it. Okay. So maybe that's where Utah kind of got turned off. I like Agbaji. We can talk about the theoretical of giving up a first in a trade like this. But, a guy who was a lottery pick a year and a half ago, and you still have 2.5 years at like very cost controlled and stuff like that. I'm certainly fine with him as a second location, like see if you can get more out of him flyer. But I will turn it back to you. Is that more valuable to you than, say, the number 28 pick in this 2024 draft, where, it's a mystery box. It might be someone way worse. It might end up someone better, and you have 4 years of it instead of 2.5. Because that's what we can talk about, the Kelly Olynyk part of it. But to me, the prospect side of this is you turn the number 28 pick in the 2024 draft into a guy who was a lottery pick a year and a half ago and hasn't quite delivered on that yet. How do you feel about that framing and about that trade-off?
Yeah, I think it has to be considered in the context of the Raptors having a lot of picks in this year's draft, which is something that they created for themselves through the OG Anunoby trade, which got them essentially the 31st pick, the first pick of the second round. Can't wait for Mark Tatum to can't wait to sleep on for a whole night and then finally hear Mark Tatum announce who the Raptors are going to pick 31st with Detroit's pick. And then they took 2 first-rounders back in this year's draft from Indiana, another one obviously down the line as well. But they traded the worst one of those 2, which, again, right now it's like pretty much going to be OKC versus like Clippers. We'll see which one of those guys finish even higher in the standings, but it's like the 29th pick.
Right now it's 28 because of tiebreakers and stuff like that. But fine. It's almost certainly going to be between 26 and 29.
Yeah, and I think realistically, the Raptors were never going to be in a situation where they're going to use all 3 of their picks this year, potentially even 4, depending on how much the Raptors, continue to drop in the standings here to maybe retain their own pick. But it wasn't ever realistic for them to bring back all those pieces. On the flip side, I think for Utah, they're like, we can essentially reset and kind of like reshuffle the deck in a way. So it makes sense for them value-wise as well, especially because they got a deeper roster. So
the Utah side of this, Utah side of this is pretty straightforward, right? Like they use a lotto pick on Agbaji. A year and a half in, they're not super enamored with it. They get to hit the reset button. The pick won't be as good, but look at where they are in the building hierarchy. So there's also the Kelly Olynyk element of this, where the Raptors get a center who we all really like. Everyone loves Kelly from his time with the national team. You know, when Jonte Porter got called up and you asked for a player comp, I'm like, I mean, they hope he could develop into a poor man's Kelly Olynyk. Like, stylistically, this is what you're looking for with this team. But he is also, older and is about to be an unrestricted free agent. He's turning 33 before the end of the season. What do you make of Kelly Olynyk's inclusion in here? Because I could see it as like, Well, you turned the late first into Agbaji, and you turned Otto Porter and Kyra Lewis into Kelly Olynyk. If you structure the trade that way, like neither side of it is that bad.
Yeah.
But as a whole, the almost 33-year-old Kelly Olynyk coming back as part of this package, how do you feel about his side of the trade?
Yeah. Immediately my thought was, is he a Thad Young replacement? And then boom, Thad Young gets traded about 30 minutes later in the separate trade to Brooklyn. But I like Kelly. I think he is a guy who can space the floor for you. He's not going to help your defense all that much, to be honest. But, I think the Raptors have a lot of other issues defensively right now that they got to address.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing
Ochai
big minutes they're playing big minutes with Thad at center defensively. No, you'd be all right.
He's basically like a Thad replacement in that way. I think the other thing, too, is, you get the floor spacing, you get the assists. He's averaging 4.4 assists this year in only 20 minutes a game. As a big, that's pretty impressive. I think that speaks a little bit to Utah's system, which brought, I think, the best out of Kelly's playmaking because he's always been a playmaker. I know, his story's been told a lot in Toronto, but, he grew up as a point guard and hit the growth spurt and became a bigger player, but he always had that passing gene. I think it fits a lot into what the Raptors want to do in Darko's system. They like having these spacing fives who can, distribute and assist. And, I think functionally it's not going to be too different from Thad Young. I think it's going to be the same strengths and weaknesses. Maybe he's not as good of a finisher near the basket. I will miss Thad Young's little jump hooks and things like this. But I think for Kelly, he gives you more of the three-point shooting, which might help space it out a little better. Defensively, it's still an issue, as I mentioned. But for Kelly, too, I think the other piece is the culture piece, right? Because I think the Raptors really do want to establish a different culture. And I think, they brought in Thad. I think Thad did the best job that he could with it. I think they brought in Dennis also as a culture piece. And again, that's why, for me, I'm like, it's interesting that they've already moved off of it for Spencer this year in the trade deadline, at the deadline. But again, hopefully we can get, Dennis on the line. This is like a prayer at this point if we can get him to still stick to that appearance. But regardless, Kelly is another guy who I think is going to really help the culture. I think that, he's just been a good guy wherever he's sort of been.
Yeah.
And, he obviously plays a big part for the national program. My question is, are you going to re-sign him?
So, look, on the culture side, I just want to acknowledge it because I agree. I think it's an important part. And I think your culture is, yes, how you are as a person and your leadership and off the court as well. But, culture can be on-court identity as well. And if this is how they want everyone to learn how to play, Kelly Olynyk has been a part of Will Hardy being able to implement the offense that they implemented in Utah, as an extension of that on the floor, someone who can organize, someone who's very, very smart. Now, in terms of re-signing Kelly Olynyk, I made a joke anyway, I made a joke about how this is three deadlines in a row now where they've traded for a center who's about to be an unrestricted free agent. So there's a pattern here. And I think that, jokes aside, that shows a willingness to acquire a guy with the intention of re-signing, like a pre-sign, basically. So I think that is certainly a possibility. It would, for me, need to be Kelly Olynyk transitioning into the part of his career where he's willing to take a little bit less money. Not that his $12 million salary right now is exorbitant, but if Jakob Poeltl is also on this team, and then you have 30 to 35 million tied up in your center combination, and you don't have a young developing center as a part of that mix, I just don't think that would be the best asset allocation. So I'm down to re-sign Kelly Olynyk. I think there's a scenario where they work out something with him a little below what he's making right now, make the quick work in free agency. So because he has a big cap hold, so you'd erase the cap hold and get his new salary on there. I think that's a possibility. We'll hear from Masai or Bobby later today about what the what the plans are for Kelly Olynyk. I guess I just, until 3 o'clock buzzer hits, I don't want to talk too much about what's next, just in case there's another thing here, because they would want Kelly, and Kelly's a good fit here on court and culturally. But there's also, we had heard that there were first round picks potentially out there for Kelly Olynyk that Utah was looking for. So
sure.
Maybe there's potentially more to come here, a bigger deal.
I mean, they did get that first round pick ultimately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
just the 20th
pick. is a part of it also.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny to Thad. It's the comparisons of Thad Young are actually really, really funny here, because Thad was also a soon-to-be free agent that year, and of course they re-signed him, and they got that little optionality into his contract. And that
was one they slid down 13 picks in that draft. In this case, they're sliding out of the draft but picking up a recent draft pick in it. Right. There are some similarities. Right. How would you feel about re-upping Kelly Olynyk? So he makes 12 now. Let's say it was like a 2-year 20 or something like that. Is that a little on the high end for you?
again, I don't think the Raptors are that squeezed for money, so I think that's fine with me. I think you would like to build in like a team option, partial guarantee or something into the second year of that deal. But yeah, ultimately, I'm happy to get Kelly in here. I think he's going to fit. Definitely going to fit what Darko wants to do offensively. Defensively, I still have a huge question as to what the Raptors want to do in general. You know, I mean, we're also just fresh off of last night's game, which I guess we will not talk about tonight because we're going to run out of time. But
so actually, I do have to get in our spicy stat of the day, which is maybe all we'll talk about from that game.
Okay,
so you let
me
know.
What's the spicy stat? Miles Bridges dropping 45 on us?
We don't talk about him.
That was disgusting,
we don't give him any shine. We don't talk about him whatsoever.
Only time he got locked up was when RJ finally locked him up late in the game, which I appreciated. Thank you, RJ. Thank you, RJ.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was some interesting stuff to talk about from that game, but obviously today's the trade deadline, so we're not going to do that.
Okay, before we get to the spicy stats, we did lose a couple pieces.
Yes.
So,
Otto Porter.
I want to hear your favorite. Well, let's start with Dennis Schroder. Obviously, we had him on the show all the time. Again, hopefully one more time. Zach, we are begging. All right, Zach, we are begging. But did you have a favorite Dennis Schroder moment on the Raptors?
I mean,
it could be off. It could be on the show as well.
Yeah,
off court.
It's more about like how many different locations he came on.
Yeah.
Our show with us from.
Let's retell those. So
massage table was the most recent. We got team bus. We got airport.
We got team bus multiple times.
Yeah,
you think that's why they traded him? They were like, "Yo, stop talking out loud on the bus."
Yeah. We got airport Starbucks.
We got airport. Yeah.
We got multiple Puma shoots, including one that seemed to be at like a dingy high school gym where like we could see the ceiling tiles and they like had water rot. That was okay one.
Yeah. We had one in the back of an Uber.
Yeah.
There was one where he called us from his house, Raptors practice facility.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty accommodating, obviously, with the request. You know,
sweet.
Yeah. Him calling me sweet was not a personal highlight, but maybe a highlight for the show in general.
I don't know. Like in seriousness,
he was actually a good dude to deal with, man.
Yeah, I enjoyed having him on the show, and like, there were weeks where we were running out of stuff to ask him about a little bit, but he always played ball. If we did some silly stuff like drafting his favorite teammates and things like that, you know, I got the impression that other than maybe after the appearance in the new year after he had been a little critical or had somewhat critical comments taken
Did
in
you
the
like
wrong
him saying
context.
at the end of the day?
Yeah.
His go-to move at the end of the day?
Yeah.
I miss Dennis, man. He was really good to us. He really was.
Oh, this is a cool thing too.
What's going on?
Grady and Ochai Agbaji
shared,
or not shared, but they had the same dorm room.
Yes. If you haven't seen this video already.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so they obviously both went to Kansas, and Ochai got drafted the year that Grady came into the program. Grady gets that dorm room that they were in, and Ochai had left a note inside of the dresser, which Grady had opened, and we saw this like surprise note in there. And I think the note was like pretty short to the point where it was just like, whoever gets this room next, be great. And then signed Ochai Agbaji. But it just so happened to be Grady who got that room. And so it'll be kind of cool to see them reunited on the Raptors. But yeah, Dennis was good to us. I think he was, for the most part, fairly transparent. Did you think we were like too soft on him? Because I saw that criticism sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know, man. But at the same time, I guess we weren't in his face confrontational.
Like, hey, man, why is your usage so high late in games? Hey, like he came on here and like
we talked about like should we start him because we don't think so.
Yeah, like are you open to coming off of the bench? You know what is the conversations been like with you about changing your role?
Did you rip team culture?
Yeah, like I don't know, like I get it. There are some people who want us to be on here and like bring up the tape of one possession. Why didn't you do that pass? It's like that's
we asked him like, hey, how can you get Scotty and Pascal involved? AKA, why aren't you passing to them? You know,
like why is your usage so high late in the game? What are those conversations like? Like
I mean, I just think we were like fair and above board with somebody that we had on the show in a respectable way.
Yeah, like this.
But
is the
I don't
thing
think
is
we
like
shied from anything.
No,
and we also trusted that he could handle controversial like topics.
Yeah. Like I don't think we were like
were like, hey, why'd you give a jersey to Tatum?
Yeah,
you know, like all those things.
You asked the questions, but like the expectation that like after he answered that question, we would then like rip him or grill him or say like, no, that is not a sufficient answer.
Dude,
like,
what did he do that deserved to be grilled like that?
Yeah,
man?
Like I get that
anyway,
he kind of and like look, he kind of became an avatar, I think, for people's unhappiness with certain Darko things in the same way that there were Fred conversations last year that weren't really about Fred necessarily.
No, I think they were about Fred too.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
I think he became a bit of a
Dude, we're never going to be happy with the point guards here, man. Unless they pass to Scotty, we're not going to be happy with the point guards here. That's just how it is.
I don't even mean the Scotty thing. Like I tweeted last night, like, okay, like Grady's had a good game. Why isn't he getting minutes late? And we've talked about this. Like, he's played poorly and closed games and played well and not closed games. And then, I was getting replies about like Darko and Dennis's relationship with respect to that. So I think he became a symbol of something that's valid.
That is valid. Darko, he was Darko's safety blanket with anything.
Right. I'm just saying between the Scotty thing, between the Fred parallels, whatever, or just like being the new point guard who comes in, some of the upsetness with Dennis was not always about Dennis. It was about what that particular spot and decision represented. To where like I don't think it was like unfair to him or anything. Like, you're making $12 million and you're getting a starting job in the NBA and you have the ball in your hands late in games. That's the criticism that comes with it. I just mean that some of the conversation was sometimes not specifically about Dennis so much as, hey, this is a representation of some things I'm unhappy about with the way this team's being run.
Yeah, this is not a conversation for trade deadline day, but I do want to talk about what do you think fans will ever get happy with media? In sports media, like I'm not asking for us to be everyone's favorites, but like just not getting killed every single day. But that's a separate question, not for today. Do you have a favorite Otto Porter moment as a Raptor?
No. I mean, look, I did think it was funny early this year where like he'd play like every fourth game and they'd win his minutes by 10, and then he'd go back to not playing. I don't know, man. The Otto Porter thing, it's hard not to just like feel blah about him not being able to stay healthy for 2 years.
I was pretty excited when the Raptors signed him because he was coming off his healthiest year in pretty much like 4 or 5 years, and coming off a championship season, comes to Toronto. I did an interview with Otto actually the day he got signed. That's when I also found out his agent was David Falk, and I was like, holy.
That is your favorite Otto thing.
That's Michael Jordan's agent. What? And I saw him, at the practice facility, got an interview. It was always nice to deal with a cool dude. Was supposed to interview him again today, or not today, but this year as well. We had discussions of maybe getting Otto on the show, and I had gotten tipped off that he was a big fan of the Rush Hour series. The fact that there was one road trip this year where he binge watched all 3 Rush Hours, and I was like, oh, sweet. We're going to talk about Rush Hour. We're just going to, I mean, I guess we'll talk basketball too, but like just wanted to talk Rush Hour with an NBA player. I felt that was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And then, the Raptors started losing more and more, and, access started getting delayed and more delayed. But, I mean, Otto, I think in theory would have made sense, but just never was really on the court much. Again, the fact that he only made total 14 threes as a Raptor is wild to me.
It's also
like that's 2 seasons, 14 threes.
Yeah, I think there's also like similar, not in the same way, but similar to what I'm talking about with Dennis and like his roster spot and his role representing, more than just himself. Otto as the guy they spent the mid-level on the year before, 29 years old, coming off helping a championship team win. I do feel like he kind of became like a spiritual avatar for like, hey, they kept making win now moves while they were also trying to develop. Now, the opportunity cost of that one wasn't very high, 2 years, $12.5 million. But what about Thad Young?
Yeah, what about Thad Young? Thad Young was awesome to deal with, man. Yeah. I loved talking to Thad Young. I really appreciated Thad stepping in the last couple of months here with Jakob getting injured. And, again, he went from playing third stringers to immediately jumping to a game and starting against Anthony Davis. And I thought he not held his own, because I wouldn't say he really won his matchups, but at the same time, it felt like just a true appreciation of his professionalism that he was able to come in and, do things that he does, take charges, make good passes, keep the ball moving, score, just be tough around the basket in general. Again, undersized, playing a position he shouldn't really be playing, and typically speaking, he wasn't in the rotation. But, I think the biggest thing with Otto is I think, unfortunately, the first trade that brought Otto in, there's so much talk about it because that, the Raptors moved down the draft. They lost the opportunity to draft Walker Kessler, who would look really good as a Raptor right now. And, of course, that led to eventually more trades and Jakob Poeltl coming in. We've been down that road a million times. I think that's out of Thad's control, though. Like, that's not up to Thad. What Thad could control was, like, who he was around the team, the presence that he brought, the experience that he brought, the fact that he was really great with the media, the fact that he was really great just with, by all accounts, with everybody behind the scenes. I appreciate that. So, I mean, I know Masai had said he wanted to get Thad Young for a long time. He said the same thing about Dennis, too, by the way. I remember that was during Dennis's welcome announcement in Vegas. He had mentioned that Masai had been wanting to get Dennis for a while. So it's the same thing with Thad, but just a really good dude, stepped up when he needed to, and now he's gone. I guess we have Kelly now to actually replace him. But I appreciated that a lot. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I love the point in the year this year where like a couple weeks before he started playing, he kind of got asked, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he was basically like, I'm not playing not because I'm 35 and can't play anymore. I'm playing because I'm 35 on a team that's trying to build a little bit, and I don't fit. Like I got, to paraphrase Mark Henry and make a second wrestling reference in the same segment, I got a lot left in the tank. And he came out and he did that. Like he's probably not going to play a ton for Brooklyn either, but it's just cool like how good these guys still are when for 30 games you might not see a guy and you think your mind automatically goes to, well, like maybe he's done. And then it's like, no, I still have NBA skills. My brain still functions at like an elite NBA level. Yeah. And even if I've slowed down a bit and other guys are more athletic or faster or whatever, I can still get this done just in a different way.
To that point, right? You see the difference between him and, for example, a guy like McDaniels. Now, it's totally different because they're like 10 years apart, lots of different experiences, whatever. But, you know, you don't see McDaniels come into a game a lot, and then he comes into the game and he does what he does against the Pelicans. I've never seen Thad Young come in and do what he did against the Pelicans. You know what I mean? Like, whenever he was called for, he was ready to play. And, yeah, I don't know. He's a good dude. Again, I feel like that shouldn't go. I guess that's not like buckets. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not buckets. That's not rebounds. It's not assists or whatever, but he was a really good dude.
Yeah.
And then, but remember when he confronted Scottie after that one game in Portland, too?
Yeah.
A memorable moment. What happened there? Do you remember?
He got traded after. That's what happened.
He got traded a year after, man.
Yeah, but they don't forget.
Yeah, I guess not.
By the way, this is a weird one. We'll do.
That's not why he got traded. To be very, very clear. Anyway,
we'll do NBA wide trades later. But Patrick Beverley, the Pat Bev podcast Twitter feed just tweeted that Patrick Beverley's gotten traded to Milwaukee. But none of the like newsbreakers have done it or anything. But this is like Patrick Beverley's own podcast.
Yeah.
So that they would just
Roan did that.
It would just be a funny way to have that trade announced. Favorite Kyra Lewis memory, just him coming on the show. That was basically he showed up to Toronto, came on the show.
He did come on the show. Yeah. Damn. The Raptor show curse. We've had all these people that got traded, you know.
I mean, everyone's getting traded though. Who didn't get traded today?
Who else are we having had on the show that didn't get traded?
Gary.
I mean, lots of them, to be honest. Yeah.
Not this year though. Not a ton.
Yeah, I suppose we had OG in preseason. He got traded.
Yeah. You had Jakob in preseason. He's still here.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. You're right.
Yeah.
Jakob
and Gary are the
next
two
hour,
left
sit
standing.
tight, buddy.
Yeah.